Hi, my name is Aya. You're watching Aya Reads, and I'm here to do my August wrap up. So while I'm filming this, it is August 26th. There's still a couple days for me to read, but in the weekend is my prime filming day. Plus, when I come home from work, it's a little bit darker out. Plus, I've worked all day, so I look better on the weekends to film because I haven't worked for 8 hours. So I think I did this last month as well, but I'm gonna talk about all the books that I've read so far and then put in clips here and there of books that I've read after today. And I'm gonna also do my stats on that day. So you'll see like 2 different versions of me in this video, pretty much. Plus, I've also done a mid-month wrap-up this month, and I'm not gonna talk about all those books I read for that video here. I'll leave that linked for you. So definitely check that out. I will tell you about the books and give you my star rating, but if you want to know my in-depth thoughts, check out the mid-month wrap-up. Okay, so now for my stats. Before I actually start with my stats, I will talk about how I'm doing with my challenges. Even though I don't have high hopes for me actually finishing them, I feel like talking about them in my wrap-ups will help keep me accountable. So I have 2 big challenges. The first one is to finish 20 books that were on my shelves that have been published before 2014. And they need to have actually been on my shelves for that long. It doesn't count if recently I purchased a book that was also published before 2014. So I read 1 book for that challenge. And so far, overall in this year, I've read 8 books for this challenge. So since after August, there's only 4 months of the year, and I have a lot of other I have a lot of other books I really want to read, mainly for the second challenge. I don't anticipate that I'll get to that 20, but I do want to make like an effort to get as many of these books read as possible. And my second challenge is my series challenge. So this month I started 3 series. No, that's not true. Wait? Yeah, that's true. Okay, so I started 3 new series. And I finished 2 series, which were the Hathaways and the Chambermaid duology, I guess. And I got caught up on 2 series. And one of those I actually started this month. So I actually started and also got caught up on the Windy City series. And I got caught up on Lore Olympus. So that means that I started 1 less series than actually finishing. So in net, -1, which means that right now I have 43 open series, and my goal is to have 30 open series by the end of the year. So I'm actually doing pretty good on that challenge, but I know in November I'm gonna do a video that's probably gonna add a lot of series on my plate. But anyway, moving on to the stats. I finished 18 books this month, and I had 0 1 stars, 0 2 stars, 4 3-star books, 5 4-star books, and 9 5-star books. So I had a really good reading month. Got a lot of high ratings. I did reread a couple books. I reread 2 books this month. So yeah, so 2 of those 5 stars were rereads. Of the 3-star reads I read this month, one of them I talked about in my mid-month wrap-up, and it's The Chambermaid by Saber Vale. This is a novella, and like I said, I gave it 3 stars. The Games We Play by Dana Isley. This is pretty much a gamer novella. So it's a smutty novella. We follow this character, this gamer guy who wears a mask, and he has a very deep growly voice. Pretty sure he's based on an actual gamer. I'm not really a gamer girly, so I wouldn't know. We follow this girl who interviews him, and basically it turns into them having a smutty good time, him dominating her, stuff like that. I do have to say, I was enjoying this part when they were at his house and doing all sorts of different things. Then she decided to take them out of the house to go to this party and meet his friends. For such a short novella, I felt like that was really unnecessary. I do feel like if that hadn't been included and it was just them in the house and doing more like kinky stuff together, I would have given this 4 stars as opposed to 3 stars. I was actually skimming a bit when they actually left his house. I didn't care about that at all. So yeah, that's why I got 3 stars. Also, he kept calling her dog, which was not really my favorite. Like, I don't really mind pet play. Like, I mean, it's not my favorite thing to read about, but this just felt to me like, I don't know, that was just not sexy, calling somebody actually calling somebody dog. So that kind of also hindered my enjoyment for it a little bit, but I gave it 3 stars. The parts that I did like, I did really like. Another 3 stars is Treachery of Beautiful Things So this book I actually read because of another video I did, which I'll leave linked for you, of me reacting to the books I bought 9 years ago. So reacting to my first ever book haul, and this was on there and I had not read it yet. So I gave it 3 stars. The reason being is I really loved the first half, and then the other half I was just kind of bored with. You follow this girl whose brother has been taken by the woods, and 7 years later she goes into those same woods, and she also gets transported into this fae world where she meets Jack, and she's set out to rescue her brother. What I really loved about this book is that we immediately went in this fae world. Like, we didn't spend a whole lot of time in the human world. Like, it was only a chapter, I believe. The time we spent in the fae world was like 99% of this book, which I really loved. I also really loved the atmosphere in the fae world and the whole lore behind it. She didn't spend a whole lot of time explaining it, which kind of hindered my enjoyment a little bit. But on the other hand, it was also kind of charming that we were just thrown into this world without a whole lot of background info. I believe the author of this book is from Ireland, so maybe these books are just like known like fairy lore in Ireland. But for me, I didn't know a whole lot about it other than from other fairy stories I've read. I don't even know if she's from Ireland. Oh yeah, she is. Okay. Like I said, I was enjoying it a lot in the first half because it felt so whimsical to me, and like the whole fairy lore aspect of it. Then the second half, it just kind of went downhill for me, mainly because of the love story. I did like, what love story? Like, what love story was not well fleshed out at all. I didn't understand why these people loved each other. Didn't make any sense to me. Plus, I felt like we didn't really get to know the main character. Like, I didn't know anything about this girl, nothing at all. And she was she played this, obviously she's the main character, but also in this world, she played this important role, and I didn't understand why. And I felt like she had no agency. Like, everything she did was because somebody else told her what to do or gave her something that proved useful in the end. Stuff like that. I don't really like those kinds of stories. I get that she's a teenager and she can't have all the agency in the world, but at least give her some. Yeah, I didn't feel like she was that special of a character. But yeah, overall, I am glad that I read it. I bought it 9 years ago. And with most of the books that are pretty old, so this was published in 2012, so I have this goal this year to read books published before 2014. Most of the books I read for that challenge I DNF'd. So this one I definitely did not DNF because, like I said, the first half was so strong that I was very intrigued throughout the majority of this book. The Professional by Kresley Cole got a 3-star for me, unfortunately. Kresley Cole, I have really loved her Immortals After Dark series, and I tried reading her young adult series and I really didn't get on with it. I DNF'd the first book. So this one had a pretty high chance of me liking it because I've been hearing great things about it. But this one, unfortunately, was a 3-star for me. Basically, this is about a girl who's been looking for, she's adopted and she's been looking for her birth parents, who she knows are from Russia. So one day, this tall, brooding man comes and gets her and tells her that her biological father sent him. And he tells her that she's in danger, he's her bodyguard, and that she needs to come with him to Russia immediately. If it's not really a question, he basically demands it of her. So she gets whisked away to Russia and finds out that she's actually a mafia princess, that her father is actually the head of one of the Bratva chapters, I guess, in Russia. And the man that told her all of this is the Siberian called Sebastian, that's his last name. And basically they start a thing. This is basically an erotica, so he's very dominant, and she finds out that she doesn't find out, she actually knows that she's submissive. So they start, you know, I guess falling in love. The reason I gave it 3 stars, it's really sad to me because, like I said, I really love her Immortals After Dark world. This just didn't really work for me because those guys are just simps for their women. It's obviously a fated mate story, so it's different from this story. But by the end of the day, I didn't really believe their HEA because he kept pushing her away and pushing her away, and she just kept letting him. Yeah, he constantly did everything that she didn't want to. He kept constantly filling things in for her when he could have talked about it very easily, and I felt like it went on for way too long. Like, eventually, obviously it does have an HEA, so eventually they get together, but I feel like that part, like that little happily ever after, that was just way too small of a window for me. I feel like they were so unhappy for so much of this book. Like, I feel like if you like lose the last 2 chapters, this is basically a dark romance slash like an abusive relationship in a way. Yeah, the way she felt trapped, the way he wasn't listening to her. Yeah, that just, I don't, like I said, I didn't really believe the HA. Maybe if the aftermath of him finally confessing his feelings, if that was a little bit longer, maybe I would have believed it. There was one other thing that was kind of bothering me. Let me actually grab my phone because I don't know where I put my phone. I didn't finish it that long ago. Like, I finished it like 2 days ago and I forgot pretty much a lot of things. What I did really love was how hot it was. Like, I cannot deny that this was a very sexy book. Cressley Cole knows how to write sex scenes, and I am very intrigued by the second book especially. We already met that hero, so very excited to see. And I do feel like I heard more people recommend that second book especially over this one. One other thing, I truly did not believe why these people loved each other. Like, yes, they were compatible sexually, and if that's the only reason for an erotic romance to like fall in love, then I guess. Yeah, and I did feel like the hero's background, like everything that happened to him was very sad. And I was honestly like, even though I gave it 3 stars, I kept flipping the pages. I wanted to know, like, I could not really stop reading this book. But yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't make it a 4. I just couldn't. It was a 3 star. At the end of the day, with a romance, you have to believe their HEA. And throughout the majority of this book, I was like, girl, just leave him. Like, just leave him. So those are not good feelings to have. But like I said, I am very much looking forward to reading The Master. I'm very excited about that one. Now for my 4-star reads, 2 of them I talked about in my mid-month wrap-up, and they are Red, White, and Royal Blue. This one I actually also did a vlog for reading and watching the movie, so I'll leave that linked for you as well. And Caught by the Convicts, which is another smutty novella. Now for my other 4-star reads, The Mistake by Elle Kennedy. This is the second book in her off-campus series. I did a vlog reading 2 popular sports romance series. One of them was the off-campus series, so once again, I'll leave that linked for you. The Mistake was my least favorite I read in that video. Wasn't that I hated it, definitely not. I gave it 4 stars. I was really enjoying it. In this book, this is a college sports romance series following 4 different hockey players, and in The Mistake you follow John Logan, and he's been crushing on the female main character of the first book in this series, Hannah. So basically crushing on his best friend's girlfriend. And mainly, he wants what Garrett has. He wants a stable girlfriend, somebody that he can cuddle with and do fun stuff with. So he meets this, I kept calling her a sophomore in the vlog. It's actually a freshman. He meets a freshman named Grace, who's also a virgin, but he finds her endearing. She loves action movies, so they kind of bond over that. And then he does something to really hurt her. So she goes off to Paris because her mom lives there for the summer, and she comes back in her sophomore year and decides that she's gonna just move on from him. But he, in the meantime, wants to do everything he can to get her back. So it's basically a second chance romance. I really loved it. I gave it 4 stars. I would highly recommend this series, but compared to the other ones I read and comparing it to The Deal, it didn't really live up to that one. So I gave it 4 stars. I do have to say, especially Logan has has a horrible family situation. His father is an alcoholic, and he basically, even though he could get drafted into the NHL if he wants to, he's made a pact with his brother that he will come back after college. He will come back and take care of his dad, which means basically ruining his dreams. So that was a very sad part of that story. But like I said, if you want to know more of my in-depth thoughts, definitely check out that non-spoiler reading vlog I did. Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman. I know, I gave this one 4 stars. I really thought this was going to be a favorite of the year. Unfortunately, it wasn't. I did really like it though, but it was not a 5-star for me. Basically, Still Beating is a story about Cora and Dean, and they despise each other. Dean is actually her sister's fiance. And yeah, they don't like each other. They constantly play pranks on each other. And then on this night of her sister's birthday, I think, birthday party, Cora decides to stay behind to, I don't know, flirt it up at the bar. And then like Dean, everybody else has already left. She loses her wallet, so she has to call Dean to come pick her up, when he picks her up, they actually get kidnapped by the serial killer. And basically, he's called the matchmaker. Basically, he forces these two people who are not couples to fall in love and then slowly watch him like kill the other one. So basically, that means he's forced Dean to rape Cora. And yeah, basically the first, I think it has 3 parts. The first part is them being captured. You actually see flashbacks of them growing up and like the whole prank situation. And then you see them get rescued and deal with the aftermath of that, because obviously the only person who knows what they've been through is the other one. Plus, since they've been forced to have sex, that is also a thing, and they haven't told anybody about that yet, especially not her sister. Slowly they realize that they love each other. The reason why this got 4 stars and not 5 stars is mainly because there was this whole storyline of Dean having always been in love with Cora. That I did not really love at all, because I feel like that kind of cheapened the whole storyline, because it would have been more powerful to me if they had actually... I get it that she didn't want to have it just be like a hate to love. Like, I was fine if the reveal was that he always liked her, as in just like a little sister friend type relationship. And then they fell in love. But the fact that he had always been in love with her and everything he did was because he had a crush on her the whole time, that just, once again, it just cheapened the plot. It made Dean a less likable character to me, because he has been with her sister for 15 years. So that just feels to me like a sort of emotional cheating, even though, once again, I get that everything they've been through would make them love each other more. And there's this whole middle section of Dean and Cora and him trying to be there for her, even though he has been through everything she's been through. I get that she was the one being raped, but like, he was also forced into that. Like, that was not his choice, so it's also a kind of rape for him too. And the way she treated him, I could not, like, I started really disliking Cora in the middle part. I get that she was going through a lot, that it was a traumatizing experience. I get that. But to me, I get that I get, since he was a part of that you would lash out at that a little bit. But I felt like, since he was also going through a whole lot, that like the amount of times she hurt him, it was just like, it just made me too sad to read. But yeah, overall, I would recommend it. It deals with a lot of dark issues. Obviously, everything I talked about is very dark, and I do know that it's a lot of people's favorite book. So the issues I had with it might not bother you, but yeah, 4 stars, it's still a good rating. I would still highly recommend it. Mile High by Liz Tomford. This I also read for my for that same sports romance vlog that I read The Mistake in. So I read the Off-Campus series and the Windy City series. Mile High is about a professional hockey player named Xanders, and he's just a playboy. He's used to women just fawning all over him, until he meets Stevie, who's a flight attendant of their hockey team's private plane, and she's not intrigued by him at all, because her twin brother is actually a professional basketball player. So she's not buying his shtick. She's not fawning over him as other women typically seem to. So that kind of intrigues him, and he kind of wants to push her buttons. So he basically just makes it his mission to kind of annoy her throughout their flights. Also, since she's the flight attendant of their team, there's a no fraternization policy. So eventually they actually start really liking each other, but they can't do anything. And then eventually they start doing stuff together, and they have to keep it a secret because it's a forbidden relationship. This deals with a plus-size heroine who does have like some internalized body issues, mainly from the people around her. So if that's your trigger, definitely look out for that. That is one of my triggers, and it did trigger me a little bit. But overall, I did really love that relationship. I loved how much Xanders loved her and how his words of affirmation were just top notch. I did feel like this was a little bit too long. This is 570 pages, and I feel like this could have been cut down with at least 100 pages. This could have been 100 pages less, and I think it would have been even more powerful. I think I would have enjoyed it a little bit more if it had been 100 pages less. Like I said, CV has these body issues, and her mom left him, and therefore he feels like he's unlovable and nobody will love him. Stevie works at this senior dog shelter, so you see a lot of things with dogs in there. It was really cute. I would recommend it. I do know why the series is so popular. Now for my 5-star reads, I talked about 6 of them in my mid-month wrap-up, and they are The Bridge Kingdom, which was a reread for me, the last 3 books in the Hathaway series, which are Tempt Me at Twilight, Married by Morning, and Love in the Afternoon. The Deal by Al Kennedy, which I also read in that sports romance vlog, and Lore Olympus Volume 4. The Heart of Betrayal by Mary E. Pearson. This is the 2nd book in her Remnant Chronicles series. This is a reread for me, but I have not read it. Like, the last time I read it was in 2015, I believe, so it has been years since I read it, so there are a lot of things I actually forgot about this book. So it did feel like I was reading it for the first time, apart from a couple story points. I did really love this. I feel like I love this even more the second time around, actually. In this book, I cannot tell you a lot about it because it will spoil the first book, but in this book, she's in a different kingdom and she's learning a lot about their culture and stuff like that. Like I said, I really loved it. I loved it more than the first book, actually, because with the first book, there's this mystery component that is basically the reason why that book is so good. But with a reread, you already know, I mean, you already know what that mystery is. So I felt like that book is only amazing because of that mystery. Once that you figure out the mystery or you know the mystery, it is a little bit less good. Whereas with this one, there's no such mystery, so it has to stand on its own, and really did for me. So yeah, I really, really love this book. I would highly recommend The Remnant Chronicles. And the last book for now is The Right Move by Liz Somford. This is the 2nd book in the Windy City series. You follow Ryan, who's Stevie from the first book's twin brother, and he's a professional basketball player, like I said. And you follow Indy, who's also a flight attendant on the hockey team, and she's Stevie's best friend. And in the first book, Indy finds out that her boyfriend or fiance has actually been cheating on her. So in this book, she needs a place to stay. So Stevie forces her brother to take her in, and he reluctantly agrees. So they become roommates. And then Ryan actually needs a fake girlfriend to convince his general manager that there's more to him than just basketball. So she reluctantly agrees. So this is like a roommate turned lovers plus fake dating situation. And those are 2 of my favorite tropes. This book I loved with my whole heart and soul. I love this book. I love Ryan Shea. Ryan Shea is the perfect book boyfriend, in my opinion. His acts of service are just the cutest things in the world. The fact that even before they even start anything, he knows that she loves iced coffee, and he wakes up before her in the mornings usually. So, and since he doesn't want her to water down her ice drinks with ice cubes, every time he makes a pot of coffee, he puts her drink in the fridge for her so that when she wakes up, it's already cold for her. And that just melted my heart. They are so, so good together. I loved Ryan, like I said. And one of the reasons why I preferred it also over Mile High, even though this also deals obviously with a rich character, Xander's is way more flashy than Ryan is. And I also really love that. Like, that is one of the things I don't really like about rich characters, is when they flash their wealth around. And I don't feel like Ryan does that. I really love this book. It is so, so good. I would highly recommend this series. I do know why this book in particular is so hyped. And like I said, I also read this one for my sports romance vlog. So if you want to know my in-depth gush, I would highly, highly recommend you watch that video. Powerless by Elsie Silver. I gave this 5 stars. And I do have to say, this might actually be my favorite in the series. I could not stop reading this book. So this is about Jasper, who's a hockey player, and Sloane, who's a ballerina. And Jasper is basically the adopted sibling of the Eaton brothers, and Sloane is actually their cousin, but she has had an unrequited crush on him. Well, it was an unrequited love for him ever since she first saw him when she was 10 years old, and she believes that he'll never be hers. She's ready to move on, so she's engaged to somebody else. And then on her wedding day, she gets an anonymous video of him actually cheating on her. So she asks Jasper to whisk her away and to take her away. They go on this road trip eventually where they finally confess their feelings. Well, he finally confesses his feelings to her. Things finally work out. This is my favorite friends to lovers, because usually with friends to lovers, I don't understand why these people are not together. Like, I'm that Cardi B meme. What was the reason? That's me. There's never a good enough reason for me why these people are not together. And in this one, I definitely felt like the reasons were definitely there. First of all, I 100% relate to pining heroines. I know a lot of people don't love that trope. I get it that a pining hero is sexier, but I just relate so much to pining heroines. Like, I cannot tell you the amount of times that I have had an unrequited crush on a guy. Like, the amount of pining I've done in my life, I cannot even tell you. So I relate to those heroines, and I do relate to her that eventually she just accepted the fact that he was never gonna love her. There is an age gap, but it's not significant, but it was significant at one point, because at one point she was 19 or like 18, wanting him to go to prom with her, and he was a 24-year-old like professional hockey player, so he could not really go to that prom. So she just felt like she has put her heart out on the line for him at least 2 times, and she's just been embarrassed by it, and he kept turning her down. Well, she just basically accepted the fact that she would always love him from a distance, and he would never reciprocate. So when he finally does, it's like a dream come true. And he also has a pretty big reason why he never told her about his feelings, because he didn't love her at that point when she was just like a teenager, but eventually he also starts developing feelings, but something is holding him back, and I cannot tell you that because that would be a spoiler. I really love these two. This is another hockey romance that I really loved. Jasper is such a sad, sad boy, and I felt so sorry for him. He's always been this mysterious guy in the first 2 books, and I've always been intrigued to find out more about him, like the adopted Eden brother. And in this book, you find out what happened to him, and how he was adopted into the Eden family. It was such a powerful book to me, and Jasper is so unbelievably sexy. Like, the sex scenes in this book are so fucking hot. There's a scene in here of him making her crawl, and I gotta tell you, that is one of my favorite things. I know, listen, I'm a feminist. Obviously, I believe that there are, like, women and men have equal rights, but listen, if Jasper Gervais told me to get on my knees and crawl, like, I'd be like, feminism who? I don't know her. Anyway, moving on. This was just so good. Like, I cannot even tell you. And I love the scenes in here with Harvey and Jasper. You know, Harvey is just like the best person in the world. I love their dynamic together, and you know, this book was so good. If you love like all the things I told you, I would highly recommend it. You can read this without having read the other ones, but I do feel like, well, yeah, no, out of all of them, I think you can read this one without having read the others. And like I said, this might be one of my favorites. I do know with most people, this is really not their favorites, but I do feel like, you know, I love this type of second chance where there was never really a first chance, but it feels like it has. And yeah, I don't know. I loved this book so much. So now for my favorite books I read this month. Right now there's 2, maybe I will add a 3rd or 4th, I don't know. But for now, my 2 favorite books I read this month were The Right Move. This book, this is gonna be for sure in my top favorite books of the year. I love this book. Ever since I read it, I cannot stop thinking about it. I tapped the hell out of this book, and I do anticipate myself either rereading those scenes before the end of the year or just flat out rereading this whole book. This is a bigger romance. It is almost 500 pages, but it didn't feel like it to me. Like, this could have, like, even though I said with Mile High, it could have benefited from 100 pages less. This one, if it had 100 pages more, I do feel like I would still love it because I would get more Ryan Shea in my life. And then my other favorite is Married by Morning by Lisa Kleypas. I had so much fun reading the Hathaway series this month. So I read the last 3 in the Hathaways, and I did really love all of them. I loved every single Hathaway book I read. I gave all of them 5 stars, but this one is the shining star in my opinion. I love this one so much. And I do feel like the reason why I loved it so much is because it has been anticipated for me since the second book. So I've been waiting 2 books for these 2 to get together, and I really, really loved it. I love Leo, I love Catherine, I love their banter together. It reminds me a little bit of another one of my favorite historical romances, which is The Viscount Who Loved Me. So yeah, honestly, And this one, even though you can read The Right Move without having read Mile High, this one I would not recommend reading on its own. I would recommend you to at least read the second and third book, but I would, like, if you're gonna do that, then read the first book as well, because I also really love the first book. I think you could already guess, but I did have another favorite this month, and it was 100% Powerless. I fell in love with this book. I loved it so much. I would highly recommend this book. Please read the Chestnut Spring series because you will not be disappointed. It is so fucking good. And this is so good. Like, such a good book. I flew through it. I could not stop reading this book. Like, every time I wasn't reading, I was constantly thinking about it. So yeah, I had 3 favorites this month, which is really good. I had a really good reading month. I was definitely enjoying myself. It was my birthday month, so that's a good thing that I had such a great month. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing what September has to bring. If you got to the end of the video, leave me, I guess, a rose emoji. And I really hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.